In this video, I'm going to give you the 3 steps to hire a virtual assistant, also known as a VA. This is someone that you can outsource all the tasks that you don't want to do. You can hire this person. So let's get into the 3 steps, and we're going to go into each of these in much more detail. The first one is to sign up for onlinejobs.ph and to actually post your job. Now we're going to go into detail on how to sign up for onlinejobs.ph and post your job. Now there's other sites other than onlinejobs.ph, but that's my favorite one, so we're going to talk a lot about that one here. Number 2 is to interview your VAs and test them. So there's a lot of, game theory is the way I describe it, a lot of thinking involved in how to make sure you select the correct VA. So we're going to go into this step-by-step, how you can automatically eliminate VAs. So when they message you, you just ignore the ones that didn't follow your directions. We're going to go into that. And then finally, number 3, hire your VA and give them tasks. I'm going to tell you how you can hire your VA once you find the perfect one, and what methods I personally use to give them tasks, what I recommend, the things that I've found that work and don't work. So let's keep going with this, and let's start with number 1, signing up for onlinejobs.ph. So this is a great place to go to find full-time VAs or even part-time VAs. Basically, a virtual assistant that will do repetitive work for you, meaning week after week after week. Now, if you're looking for just a one-time thing, Upwork and Fiverr are probably better options, but let's get into this a little bit. Filipino VAs are great. And I don't want this to be a racist thing at all, but it's just within they have great English abilities for anyways. A lot of their school system, they speak in English. Also, in the Philippines, it's very easy to live a good lifestyle on very little income. So you can pay your Filipino VA not that much money, but to them it's a lot of money. I might get these numbers slightly off, but it's pretty close. An engineer in the Philippines makes $350 a full-time, $350 a month, right around there. A professor makes right around the same amount of money. So when you hire your virtual assistant and you pay them a few $100 a month, that's actually good money to them. Another thing is they have good quality internet. Now, one of the issues you might run into when hiring people from India or other areas, China potentially, is their internet quality isn't always so good. It's not always the case, but what I've found with Filipino VAs is they tend to have good quality internet. Then loyalty and honesty is just part of their culture. They're very loyal and very honest as well. And you can get into some debate here, but this is what I found. This is what a lot of my friends have found. This is what a lot of the experts have also found. If you're going to outsource, hands down, go with the Philippines. If you don't want to use onlinejobs.ph, like I mentioned, you can use Upwork or Fiverr. This is for like a one-off assignment, or if you want to find a VA that's not Filipino for whatever reason, that might be good sites to use. To find out how to sign up for onlinejobs.ph, you can click right here. I have a whole video where I show the entire process, starting from signing up to onlinejobs.ph all the way through posting my first job. So you can click here to watch that video. And just as a side note, if you decide you do want to sign up for onlinejobs.ph, click up here. I have a link to that site. And if you use this link, I have a special bonus for you. I'll tell you about it at the end of this video. So once you've signed up for onlinejobs.ph, the next thing is going to be to actually post your job. So in that last video, I talked about also how to post your job. There's some tips and tricks that I would recommend. And at any point too, if you sign up for my free e-commerce success pack, click up here. I have the exact templates I use. I think I showed in the video as well. The exact templates I use, what I say, what kind of requirements I ask for any applicants, all that kind of fun stuff. But the number one thing I will say is make sure that they jump through hoops. You want to make it a little bit difficult for them to apply for this job. One of the benefits of the onlinejobs.ph is there's so many VAs. So let's say 100 people might apply for your job. The key is trying to figure out which 80 of them, and there's probably going to be at least 80 of them, just blanket sign up and apply for every job. You don't want those people. You want the people that read your requirements. So what I do is I ask a few different questions. I say, number 1, I want you to change the subject line to something. Like it might be change the subject line to I want to work for you, and then in brackets, insert my name. So they have to do a little bit of work. They can't just copy and paste. They have to say, what is this guy's name? And the more difficult you make that, probably the better. So make sure that people actually have to change the subject line. So I don't even want to open up an email from anyone where they don't change the subject line. The number 2 question I say is write a few sentences why you think you'd be good for the job. And I think number 3 is write a few sentences what you'd like to get out of the job, something like that. Once again, if you get the e-commerce success pack, I have the exact templates that I use there. But subject line game theory is big, and I won't take too long to tell this story, but if you don't know, I believe it was Van Halen and the brown M&Ms, go read that story. Basically, one of the guys in Van Halen, I don't remember which guy exactly, realized they had this long document. Every time they'd go do a concert, they had this long document that people would have to read and set everything up properly. So what they did is they buried in there, by the way, make sure you give us a bowl of M&Ms, but pick out all the brown M&Ms. So what they would do is they'd go look at the bowl of M&Ms, and if there were brown M&Ms in there, they knew that they didn't read the document and something was wrong. Use this when hiring people. Ask them to do certain things, and if you see that they're not able to follow those simple directions, you don't want to hire that person. So that is very important right there. Once again, click above here to get my sample. I'll probably say that a few times in the video, but yeah, free templates up there. All right, now let's move on to interviewing your VAs and testing them. I already talked a little bit about this. So once people have followed all the tests so far, then you can ask them to interview, or you can say, hey, I'd like to interview you. And there's a couple different things. I have the email templates, everything I use, every step of the process documented in my e-commerce success pack. But I basically send them an email saying, hey, I'd like to interview you. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. At one point I dedicated a day and I said from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock PST, I'm free. And I'd send them an email saying, I'm free from these times. Please pick a 30-minute chunk of time or a 20-minute chunk of time that works for you in there. If the next iteration, the next time I do it, would be to actually send them a link to some kind of a scheduler. So then as the different VAs or potential applicants fill out the times, that would get filled up. So that's also trying to see, can they follow directions? And I say you have to schedule it. Send me an email with a time in PST, not your time zone. I don't care about your time zone, but PST. The next thing is require video chat. I do all my interviews over Skype, and I explicitly tell them this will be a video chat. If you do not have video, do not apply. Do not try to contact me because I don't care. And there is a lot of reasons for this. This is another one of those game theory type things. If they're not willing to video chat with you, there's a couple potential reasons why. Either they're too shy, which some people have told me I'm too shy. If you're too shy to video chat with me, how am I gonna hire you? Like, why would I work with you? Potentially they're lying about who they are, which may or may not be an issue. That's just I'm not gonna hire someone who's lying about who they are. And number 3, it lets you see their quality of internet and their living conditions and just they're honest. You wanna see their face. When you're talking with them, you wanna see their face. But a surprising thing you might not have thought about is the internet quality thing. If you see that the video chat is very poor quality, then they probably have bad internet. It's probably not the ideal person to hire. But ultimately, it lets you determine a little bit better your gut reaction by seeing the person. How do you think they'll work within your organization? So now I'll go into some of the questions I ask. I have about 15 questions. I picked 15 questions I asked. I picked some of my favorite ones right here, and let's go over them. So the first one is send me a link to your online jobs profile. The second one is tell me about your last job. Next up is what do you want to learn from this job? If the internet goes out, what are your other options? And the reason I ask this is it establishes that from the beginning, hey, if you have a really important task and your internet goes out, what can you do? And usually people will say, well, there is a coffee shop down the road that always has internet, or this, that, and the other thing. And why this is important is in the future, if they say to me, oh, my internet went out, sorry, I couldn't get it done, I can say, well, what about that coffee shop you said you could go to? So I'm asking them very much upfront, what are their other options? Now, a curveball question I ask is if you could have a conversation with anybody living or dead, who would it be and why? This is a measure of how creative they are, how well they think on their feet, and it lets me know what kind of a person they are. If they say a historical figure, I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. Why that historical figure? And it allows me to dive a little bit deeper, get to know a little bit about them. This question, do you have any kids or do you plan on having kids soon, I found to be very important. And I didn't think about this until I had one VA who had kids and was constantly sleep deprived, constantly running around after her kids, only working little chunks here and there. And then I had a second VA who ended up getting pregnant or was pregnant when I hired her. I didn't realize this, and was about to have the kid and had to basically quit because she was going to have the kid. So this is a question you should ask, and remember, you can think about this, weigh your options. Do you really want to hire someone that's about to have a kid? Probably not. They've got a lot on their plate. I mean, I hope they find a job for their own sake, but I don't want to be the one that's paying for them when they're sleep deprived and not thinking properly. This question, what are your long-term plans? I use this to try to determine, what does this person really want to do? And this is a good thing to ask. If they say, you know what, in 6 months or a year, I really want to go to college and I don't want to be working, maybe not the person I don't want to hire unless I only want that person for a year. It lets you determine, is this person trying to do something beyond my company, or would they like to grow with my company? And I'm at the point right now, I only really want to hire people that I'd have for a few years. It's just too much work trying to train someone otherwise. And the last question I always ask is, do you have any questions for me? And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think if they don't have any questions for me, that's usually a bad sign. I want them to ask things like, how many hours do I get to work? Just anything, really, like what kind of actually a big one is, what kind of tasks will I be doing? If they're willing to take any job and they don't even care what they're doing, maybe not the best fit. So I have these questions. I also have 7 other questions that I ask. I usually ask about 15 questions, and I might skip some if I think they're not relevant. But if you want to get the list of all those questions, once again, e-commerce success pack, click up there, and I'll send you that entire bundle with all this stuff. So I actually have example videos, and you click right here. These are just real live of me interviewing VAs. So you can see how the interactions go. You can see what kind of questions I ask. You can basically get a feel for it before you ever have to actually do it. Another big tip from this is you don't have to interview everyone for the full interview. There were some people in this video you'll see I only talked to for 10, 20 seconds, and I'm like, no, something's off. I wouldn't hire that person. So there's no point in having a 10-minute long interview if I know I'm not going to hire them. So the first 2 videos in here are VAs that I've actually hired. The first one of these people, great VAs, probably the guy editing this video right now. Thank you, Adrian. I really appreciate it. And the other ones, the next one I did hire, she ended up not working out. And then the rest of them I just didn't even hire because they were not up to par. So that is in that video. The last tip I will give you about interviewing and hiring people, trust your gut. And I know this doesn't sound scientific. As a logic-based person myself, I never would have followed this until I experienced it over and over again. When you're going to hire someone, if you really deep down believe that like, wow, that's going to be a great person, that's the kind of person you want to hire. If you're not sure, or logically you think, I think that person on paper looks good, but something feels off, don't hire them. It's not going to work out. And this is a mistake you're probably going to have to make yourself, but I'm going to warn you right now, trust your gut. So when you hire your VA, finally, you need to give them tasks. So in this part, I'm going to walk you through what you actually should do when hiring them, how to give them tasks, how to send them money, all the last little bits and details. So videos on the first day of orientation. I film all my tasks that I give my VAs. I film them in little screen recording videos. I highly recommend for your first VA, all the different tasks that they're going to do, record the videos. And there's a ton of reasons for this. 1, it's easier for them to follow along. 2, the next time you go to hire a second VA, or if that person quits or for any reason something happens, you'll have those videos. I'm lucky enough now with my current VA, Adrian, I already had all the videos. So on his first day, I said, hey, go watch these videos, follow through on these things. You also want to give them first day documents. I have one sheet that's called the VA, I think it's the VA first day document, and it lists out a bunch of things that they need to do on their first day. Once again, you can get a copy of that by clicking up here, signing up for the free e-commerce success pack. Another thing that I have them do is sign up for LastPass, which is a password share. Highly recommend if you're going to get a VA, sign up for LastPass. I think it's $9 a year, and it allows you to give passwords to your VA so that they can't see them. So if something happens and they quit or you need to fire them, you can delete them from LastPass and they no longer have access to anything. Rather than the old-fashioned way of giving them manual passwords, Because if you have to give them, let's say they have access to 10 different websites and you fire them, the old-fashioned way was you'd have to go change all 10 of those passwords. That's a pain in the butt. With LastPass, you can give them access to 50 different websites, and as soon as you fire them or they quit, just click 1X and it's done. They no longer have access to any of your stuff, any of your websites, any of your accounts. Dropbox, I also make them install Dropbox and create a partition. The way I do it, and this is just a personal preference, I have my Dropbox on my D drive and I require them to put it on their D drive as well as a little bit of computer speak, and they can create a partition, and if they only have one drive, they can create a partition and put it there. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but this is mostly for video editing. It makes video editing much easier when we both are on the same location. I can get into details about that. If you're curious about that, leave comments below. But Dropbox also is great for sharing videos. Everything I do is Dropbox. Highly recommend using Dropbox. And then, like I said, I make them watch the initial videos. So the last little bit here is I have a video where I talk about how I actually give my VAs tasks, and it involves a spreadsheet in Dropbox. If you want that video, you can watch that as well. The last thing I let them do, or I make them do, is read the Assistant Handbook. In there, I detail all the different processes of different jobs that they're going to be doing. And if you're just hiring a VA, start out slow. Every time you give your VA a new job, make them write out the steps. And this is, so I have the videos, but I also have the handbook as a backup. And there's certain things that I forget to add in the video, and I say, oh, well, I forgot to add that in the video. Can you add that to the handbook? So here's some bonus tips for continued success, because once you hire your VA, that's only half the battle. The other half is making sure that they stay consistently good. So the first thing I highly recommend doing is a weekly meeting. If you're interested in how I run my weekly meetings, free e-commerce success pack, I have the list. But the quick version of it is, I say, hey, how's everything going? Do you have any questions for me? So we meet on Skype once a week and I ask them, do you have any questions for me? And usually there's a few. 2, I look over their tasks and I see what tasks they've done, and I get rid of anything that's no longer relevant. Then after that, I go through and I say, basically, is there any of the priority 1 tasks? So the most important tasks, what is the status on these? And if I see, hey, you didn't do any work on this priority 1 task, what the hell's going on? I start to get upset if it happens repeatedly. The next thing I look at is their daily tasks. So my VAs always have daily tasks, meaning they do the same repeated task every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That could be something like answering emails. And I look, did you do this? Did you do this every day for the last week? And so we review that. And then the last thing I'll ask them is things like, what do you want to learn from this job? What do you want to get out of this? So my current VA, Adrian, actually told me, I want to learn how to do Xero, which is an accounting software that we actually use. And he didn't even know that we use this. And I'm like, that's awesome. I was going to give him that task anyways, but now because he said it, I'm like, cool. I'm for sure you're in charge of all our bookkeeping. So that is how I run my weekly meetings. PayPal is how I send money to my VAs. They give me their PayPal account. I usually send it as friends and family. You pay lower fees. It's up to you on how you want to do it. It's still tax deductible, it's still all that stuff. You just pay lower fees. And the next thing I will say for continued success is document every single process. Record those screen recordings and save them in a special folder. Keep the VA handbook. Day one, your day one guide, make sure you have that one thing, because that makes it so much easier for me. Now when I hire a new VA, instead of emailing them and saying, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, I'm like, here's the day one document, follow the steps here. And if after day one they haven't followed those steps, maybe that's not someone you want to hire. Also, of course, document the VA handbook. I've provided mine up here in the free e-commerce success pack. So if you want that, click up there. You can get that information as well. So another thing I will say for continued success is make your VA send you a daily email, and this is what would be in the daily email. What did you do today? What kind of problems did you run into? How can I help you? And finally, what is the priority one task updates? So what did you do today? I just want to see a list of everything they did today. What problems did you run into? This is very important because if they ran into a problem, I want to know what happened. Also, if it's a problem I can help, the how I can help section is very critical, because I'll get messages like, hey, I didn't have access to this website. can you make sure and give me access via LastPass? And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. So that email is very helpful. And then finally, the priority 1 task update is something I only recently added. And this is, if there's a priority 1 task and it's not getting completed in 24 hours, which is something I usually want my VAs to do, I want to know why. And sometimes it's too big of a task to get completed in 24 hours. So I have them email me saying, hey, I still need to do this. It'll get done by tomorrow, or what it is. And this serves, so if I see the same task there day after day, I can be like, what's going on here? And either fire them or have a good conversation with them and try to figure out what's going wrong. So if you do want to hire your own online virtual assistant, you can click here. This will send you to onlinejobs.ph. It's $50, like I said, for the month, but you know what? You can sign up, and if you don't like it, you can get your money back. Originally, when I first was signing up, I was gonna actually just get a VA, pay the $50, get a VA, and then ask for a refund. I'm pretty cheap, but I decided it was worth the $50, so I did not end up asking for a refund. Highly recommend going with onlinejobs.ph. If you click here, use this link, I do get a small little kickback from onlinejobs.ph, and as a thank you, I'll give you a free consulting session, and we can either do a consulting session on how to get the most use out of your VAs or e-commerce or anything else related to anything that I do. So if you're interested in getting a VA, highly recommend clicking that link and you will get a free one-on-one consulting session with me. Once again, it's risk-free. You have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, you send them an email and they'll give you your money back. But if you're actually serious about getting a VA, I promise you're gonna love it. So click over there. And last, if you enjoyed this video and you wanna learn more about e-commerce, click that subscribe button. The Online Store Success Pack, as I mentioned 100 times, you can click up there and get that. All the VA documents from this video will be in there. If you have any questions about hiring a VA, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this was helpful.